Hey everybody, welcome back. Just wanted to do a quick movie here on typography. Everybody did very well on the quiz we just took, but there's just one thing I kind of wanted to point out here, and it was kind of a question that kind of kept tripping everybody up, but it is very important, and it's going to make your life easier if you understand it. But what I want to talk about is this whole business with base font size, okay? And you need to use pixels, not EM, for the base font. Anyway, I'm going to get into this in a second. I want to show you kind of a real-world example of how this works best here for what we call best practices. So as you can see here, I've drawn up, this is just a little quick HTML document I drew up. It would be kind of like an article or something. And it's just basically some pictures, some captions, and some text, okay? And not that this is compelling design or anything, but I do want to show you one thing. Okay, if you look in here, there are three different styles that I'm using for the text, okay? Up here, you can see where it says heading 1. I'm going to show you my code in a second, but that's an H1 tag, okay? Nothing shocking out of the ordinary there. Under that, I have this text falls in a paragraph inside the P and P tag. And then finally, if you look under each image here, you get these two crazy sheiks, and down here I've got the water tower. I do have a caption size, okay, and so I've declared a style for that. Okay, so the three text styles: the caption, the main text, and then the header. Okay, let's look over here in the HTML document for a minute. And I purposely did a lot of the styles for the layout inline. We're going to get into those shortly. But I want you to just concentrate on the top here, and I want to make this real simple so everybody can understand what we've done, okay? So HTML and body, I've declared a base font size. You don't use the word base in the declaration, it's just font size, but what I'm doing here is declaring a base font size, and that is going to be 12 pixels, okay? Which basically means all my styles are going to hinge around a base font size of 12 pixels, okay? So bear with me, let's keep going. And you can see for every other measurement for typography in here, I have used, for instance, line height, I've used 1.5 EM or 1.5 M. I've used 1 M for the H1, and I've used 0.8 M for the caption. Remember, we talked about these as kind of being akin to percentages. Okay, so the H1, by default, most browsers make headers really bold and really big. Well, I want it to be bold, but I want it to be the same size as the rest of the text. Let's go back here so you can see it. I want it to be subtle, okay? I want it to be clean and simple. So basically what I did, and I didn't play with this terribly much, but the font size here I've declared as 1M, and I think the default may be 1.5 or so, okay? So I've changed the default. For the caption, I want this to be small and I want it to be bold. So what I did is I said this is going to be 0.8 M, and this is going to be bold. Now these M's are all based off of this 12 pixel size up here for font size, okay? Now if I don't declare a base font, it's okay. The browser has by default a base font size that's usually around 12 pixels, between 12 and 14, depending on what browser it is. The user can change that. And if you want to let things fall to chance, then that's essentially what you're doing if you don't declare a base font size. The world won't end. Nobody comes at your door and captures you. I mean, it's just, but what I'm doing is I'm adding some control to my design. So here's what we've done. Just for the HTML, the body, kind of these master elements, I've declared font size of 12 pixels, okay? And then everything else is in M based on that. Now let me show you what's great about this. Let's say that this article's fine and all, I like it, but these captions get too hard to read. I've got, let's say my client is old and he can't see, and you laugh now, but that happens a lot in the real world. So anyway, I want to bump this up, okay? Now, if I don't use a base font size, I've got to go in, I've got to tweak everything, okay? But what's really nice is if I want everything to scale unilaterally. For instance, remember the header up here. Remember, I wanted this to be a small header, so I don't want to have to go in and restyle everything by using pixels or absolute measurements on everything. So what I could do is just bring this 12 up to 14, save the document, let's go back over and refresh, and lo and behold, everything went up, okay? Including the line height. Remember, the line height was set to 1M because I want it to breathe a little more, and to my eyes now, it's breathing a little too much, but it's not bad, and I might have to make a couple tweaks, but see, I did in one quick adjustment something very simple, okay? And that's the whole idea of using a base font. Let me show you one other thing here. Let's close these for a second, and I'm going to show you a website that I wanted to bring up, and I think everybody bookmark this, put it on Delicious, bookmark it in Firefox, whatever you got to do to remember what this is. But this is very handy. It's going to come in to be your best friend on most typography related projects. This is a site called typetester.org, okay? And basically what it is a way of comparing screen types, okay? Let me show you how it's set up here. In the upper left-hand corner here, you have some sample text right here, okay, which is set to some Greek right now. So I could actually drop in my own text there and create something so I could see it more practical application of what I'm trying to do. So anyway, there's by default some Greek text in there. I can't change that. And then over here on the right-hand side at the top, I have a lot of options here. First of all, you see the base font size is set to 10 pixels. Well, this is exactly the method that I've just showed you. Here's where you set your base font size. I could bump this up to 16 pixels. And yep, you can see it just responded down here. Okay, so it's now 16 pixel base size. So anyway, so this is for checking out type. Let's bring it down to 12. And what's great is below it gives you 3 panes here. And what the reason there are 3, giving you the exact same text all the time, and then look down here, all the variations. You have regular, bold, and italic. And I've got 3 columns of this. It goes on, bold, italic, etc. What it allows me to do is comparing different styles, different typefaces, different sizes, side by side to kind of see what I like the best. This is really handy. And then there's some simple controls in each list, and the default typeface is Verdana, but if I select this window, it's basically going to start showing me all the defaults on my computer. Okay, let's look up at the top here. It starts with a safe list, and these fonts are basically on any computer, Mac or PC. They're the safe fonts, okay? They're not all good looking, but they're safe. Okay, notice there's no Helvetica. Helvetica is not quite deemed safe yet. It's only on newer Windows machines. Then you've got the Windows default set, which is the kind of the default set that comes with Microsoft Windows. Under that, there's the Mac default set. So if you know you're doing a website for Mac users, you can pretty much bet they're going to have fonts on here for it. And then finally, we've got Windows Vista at the bottom. Okay, so those are my choices. And then I can also specify my own font. And this is just all the fonts on my particular computer. Now, a word of caution here. Again, remember, fonts aren't going to work. If I use Adobe Garamond Pro, it ain't going to render correctly unless the user looking at your web page has Adobe Garamond Pro on your computer. So these are really, I think, special application uses. I wouldn't never say never on these, but just about never. I might be making an internal document for myself, or I could certainly do it for a podcast or something like that. But, I've never been that anal retentive about web type. So anyway, I could change this. Let's change this over from, not Comic Sans. How about Georgia? Okay. And so now I can contrast. You see Georgia is a serif font. I can see what it looks like in comparison to Verdana. And I can change the second pane to, let's say, Impact, which is kind of severe looking. But anyway, you get my drift. You can see now that I'm contrasting 3 typefaces. I rarely don't, you can apply it to column down here. You can adjust the tracking. I have it used for 3 of these. One's usually enough. But anyway, you can see now, first of all, under size, here's 1EM or 1M. Now this is 1M of 12 pixels, okay? So if I am working on some, like my caption text, I can see how small 8M gets. And you can see that actually Georgia stays pretty readable at some of these small sizes. If you go down to 7, it starts to become unreadable. So watch out when you get real small like that. But I can adjust my leading to 1.5M if I want. So make it wider. Adjust your tracking. Tracking is usually done in pixels here again, just because M is harder to get the finite control that you're going to need over it. And we'll talk about that later. Alignment, left, center, justify. Word spacing. You can adjust the spaces between the words. Anyway, there's a lot of options you have in here. You can actually adjust the color in the background. It's wonderful. And then if you decide you want to start back over, you've messed this up beyond oblivion, you can go back up and reset the settings on this computer, and it will certainly reset. Now, one thing that's nice, let's say that over here on the left-hand column here, that I really like what I have here, okay, for my, with this Georgia-based style that I've created. What I could do is I can say get CSS for first, second, or third column. So let's get the CSS for the first column. It gives me a pop-up window, and lo and behold, here's the CSS. All I have to do, this is so awesome, is just simply drag to select, and I can copy and paste that right into my CSS page. You guys, I have no problem with cutting and pasting things. Life's too short to have to write everything out every time. But anyway, this is one time saver I highly recommend. Anyway, there you go. That's typetester.org, and bookmark it. Use it on every project we do in here. It's going to save you a lot of time. And if you're a visual person, if you're more of a designer than you are a coder, it really is a godsend. So there we go. We'll move on to the next lesson.